Our next surprise guest, another ish guest. Um, I think a person that you and I both consider a very dear friend and one of our favorite people in the media business. On the line right now, we've got play-by-play extraordinaire, Mr. Ted Emrich.
Oh,
Whoa!
Teddy!
This is non-disclosure. This is so non-disclosure.
Oh, wow. Teddy, what's going on, man?
Man, I am just so honored to be with you
Oh,
guys. When
stop
Ish
it.
reached out, I was first of all, man, all the applause to you guys and everybody associated with Dave Campbell's Texas Football for what you're doing for charity today, and thank you for what you're doing to your bodies, as you just mentioned. But man, I'm just glad to hop on with you.
Okay, I want to know about being a play-by-play guy during a pandemic because this is I'm sure that you're a guy who it this time of well maybe not this particular time of year, but at least for the past 6 months, normally you are flying all over the place. I can't turn on my TV without hearing your voice. What have the last 6 months been like for you?
Crazy man. The last game I did was early March, the start of college basketball championship week. I was in Rock Hill, South Carolina, for the Big South Championship between Hampton and Winthrop. And the schedule is so busy that time of year for me, right? Rolling right into March Madness, and had two more conference championship games later that week, the tournament starting the following week, and that's when it gets really packed, and we love it. It's so much fun, and then the world stops. It's wild. I will say that the summer is usually a much lighter time of year for me. There's just the occasional event here and there. I don't do baseball, so that unlike some like our my good friend, our all of our good friend Jared Sandler with the Rangers, like that's I'm just so glad he's back to work now. But the summer for me, those 3 months, honestly, it's very much like a teacher's schedule. Those 3 months off, outside of a few things here and there, golf or the occasional one-off baseball event with ESPN. But it's crazy because then you're right. As we head into August, that's when you think, okay, now we can ramp up and we are getting ready for what comes in September and so on and so forth. And we just have no idea. And that's where we are.
It's Ted Emrich, our buddy, our play-by-play buddy, joining us here on Texas Football Today. Okay, I want to know a little bit about, and I don't know if I've ever actually asked you this question. So your father, of course, the great Roger Emrich, it was a play-by-play maestro himself. Was there ever a time you weren't gonna do play-by-play? Because I'm gonna be honest. If you were just like a sales guy, I feel like that would be. I'd be like, well, you got the voice and you got the pedigree. Like, what's going on here? Was there ever a time you weren't gonna be a play-by-play guy?
Yeah, I mean, well, he actually discouraged it. He discouraged me going into this. He said, do something that pays. So I didn't really listen to him. I mean, yeah, my dad. It all comes back to high school football with him and with me. That's what I grew up on. That's how I cut my teeth. That's how he cut his teeth first in Louisiana, his home state, and then he got to Texas as quickly as he could. And do we have time for one story?
Please.
Buddy, we got plenty of time.
Okay, yeah, you guys are on until 4 o'clock, right? So I can help you fill some time.
Boy, you
Go,
are
go
you,
ahead and
dude. You
grab the Folgers can if you need to.
dude, you are your father's son. Go on.
Okay, so 2001, I am 14 years old, and my dad is getting ready for uh, playoff football, which we know is just so special in this state year after year. I loved hearing from Joey McGuire just a few moments ago with you guys, man, and he'll come up here in just a second. But 2001, we go down to Waco ISD Stadium. And Greg, you might have heard this story before, but if not, here we go. It is Lufkin and Plano in the second round of the 5A, I believe, Division One playoffs. I'm not sure. It might have been D2. I think D1.
Mhm.
And this is Lufkin. at the peak of their powers with senior Reggie McNeil at quarterback and the late John Outlaw as their coach. And great game. Lufkin wins it 24-19. We did not do that game in the press box. Why? Why, you would ask? Now, I was not on the air at this time. To clarify, I was spotting for my dad, who was doing the game with our good friend Doug Anderson, who, of course, has been the voice of the TXA21 high school game of the week for many years now. So we get to the stadium, and the person out front handling credentials for Waco ISD points in my direction, and she says, he is not allowed. No kids in the press box. And my dad immediately says, oh, he's going up. He's going in. I mean, it turned into a shouting match. I mean, I'm a paid member of the crew. I get it. You know, I'm a kid. I'm a teenager. But I was the spotter for Doug and my dad. I was a paid member of the crew. I heard later that Waco ISD, that season, or the previous seasons, they just opened up that new facility at the time. They had problems with people bringing their kids and just running around and making messes in the press box. And so they passed this unilateral rule, no kids in the press box. But it doesn't make sense when you have somebody who is a paid member of a broadcast crew and you're not going to allow them in. So what do? They set up a table at the top of the stands that's right underneath the press box overhang. The maintenance people, they get the maintenance people to drop the line, the phone line, the ISDN line, that makes us sound good on the radio, all that good stuff. They drop it through the ceiling of that overhang, like going to all of this trouble to get us on the air. Thank goodness they did, because I don't think Doug and the engineer who was working for the Texas State Network at the time had that kind of equipment to run a big long cable all the way up to the press box down to the stands. But I'll give Waco ISD credit there. But my dad and Waco ISD were not on good terms. Let's just put it that way. Doug had to broker the peace with the Waco ISD athletic director at the time to make sure that we could still do our jobs and still get on the air.
Oh,
so that was week 2 of the playoffs. Fast forward a few weeks later, it is the 4A Division I state championship game. Denton Ryan and Smithson Valley, a game that went to overtime. It was a classic. Ryan won 42-35. James Battle, Earl Goldsmith, Jarvis Moss, all the greats from that time under Joey Florence there at Ryan. So by that point, Waco ISD had built essentially a stage, like a wooden stage or riser, still outside the press box, but at the top of the stands, and there were fans that could just surround. It was almost like a mini college game day type setup, only for a radio play-by-play broadcast. It was just insane. But they went to all that trouble just because they didn't want a kid in the press box.
Goodness gracious.
It was unreal.
And and the thing is, you say you're 14.
Yeah.
Like you're not like
you're the age of a high school student.
You're not like Jane's age.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes, my daughter is 3.
Yeah, it's not like you got Jane running around,
right.
grabbing chicken fingers or something like that. Like, golly, yeah. Well, Waco IC would be chicken fingers too. That's incredible. And yeah, but it just it just always struck me that like of course you'd be a play-by-play guy. Like of course, like yes, like duh. You're Roger's kid. Of course you did. All right, Pickle, you had a question.
Yeah. So the way that Ted and I actually met is he would come and talk to my sports broadcasting class at UNT, and I believe it was the second semester that I was able to watch him talk. He brought his tape of the 2018 A&M versus LSU game that went into 7 overtimes. He called it for Westwood 1, and I loved listening to it. And I didn't grow up an A&M fan, but I loved listening to the call. I was wondering, is that your favorite call that you have ever had, that the entirety of that game, or is there one other one that really sticks out above the rest?
Man, Pickle, I mean, I think you've got it pegged. I mean, when you have the highest scoring major college football game in history, and that unfolds in front of you, that you don't exactly expect that going in. It was at the end of the season. I mean, we remember it. And by the way, it just watching Joe Burrow that night for LSU, again, under a previous offensive coaching staff before Joe Brady came aboard, you're thinking, really, this guy's going to be the number one pick in the draft and break all these records the following year and win a national championship? Like, it never crossed your mind. I thought, he's really good and tough as hell. He got knocked around that night. But I mean, yeah, I've been really, really fortunate, and yes, that has to be at the top of the list. Just all the different venues that I've been so fortunate to broadcast from very early in my career. I'm very, very lucky, and man, high school is included. Whenever we get the chance now, it's 3 years running now for me, part of the crew with Fox Sports Southwest, to do the state championships in December. Man, that is so, so special, especially on Saturday when you have 50,000 plus people turning out for high school football, and bowl games across the country can't draw half that. It's just so cool to be a part of.
And finally, Ted, because I don't think I've actually got to talk to you on any sort of major medium about this since it happened. But since like the 1990s, here is a complete list of people who have called Dallas Cowboys games. Here's a complete list. Ready? It's Brad Sham, of course.
Yes.
With pride of University of Missouri, I must say. The pride of
MIC.
And Ted Emrich. Back in September, you called. You got to fill in for Mr. Sham, who had a religious observance that he was heading to. It's I think he said I've been lucky. It's like 37 years and it's only happened once. But I'm obviously your dad had a great connection with the Dallas Cowboys as well. I'm interested in what that meant to you and the opportunity to call a Dallas Cowboys game. Not only filling in for, it's cool that North Texas guys are backing up, the backups for Mizzou guys. It's how it should be, but
get out of here.
But what was that like? What was that experience like for you?
Easy, Tab.
What was that experience like for you?
Oh man, I think the word surreal is overused these days. Maybe not during a pandemic with everything going on, but that last September truly was surreal. Again, that they would call me, and Brad was so supportive throughout. I was there at AT&T Stadium the week before just to get a handle on things when the Cowboys played the Dolphins. He was so generous with his time, as he always has been. I remember spotting for Brad. Again, when I was in high school and college, I spotted for him on a number of Cotton Bowls that were on Westwood One. And I mean, he is the definition of a legend, an icon, and not just in Dallas Fort Worth. One of the best to ever do it. And to don that headset just for one night, I will never forget it. I am so grateful. I certainly wish that there were more points scored in that game. The Saints beat the Cowboys 12-10, but still, all the drama that you can ask for. And on a Sunday night with that kind of crowd at the Superdome, working with Babe, working with Christy Scales, Danny Miles, Ted Nichols Payne, the entire crew is Bob Thomas, statistician. Just it's one of the best crews in the NFL, period. And just to be a part of that group for one night was so special. And on top of that, like you mentioned, Greg, I mean, my dad was the PA voice for the Cowboys for 8 years. And he's from New Orleans. Like, they're just the confluence of events here. And it was truly magical. And, you said that we haven't talked about it in a public forum. I'll share this in a public forum for the first time. It was extra special for one reason. My dad's last wishes were to be cremated, and he wanted his remains to be scattered at Melot Park in his hometown of Gretna, Louisiana, which is on the west bank of New Orleans, just across the river. And it was the perfect time to do it. And so I flew down, with the crew, with the team Saturday. And on Sunday morning, had plenty of time. Of course, a Sunday night game, had plenty of time to, get a cab and go across the river, and found Melott Park, where he grew up playing baseball from Little League all the way to American Legion and whatnot. He grew up going to semi-pro games that were played there. And it's funny, I show up and the third base gate was locked. And and the fence is really tall. Like, there's no way I can scale this. I am not an athlete. There's no way I can scale this. Like, come on, I'm not gonna drop my dad's ashes outside the park. I've got to get in. And I walk around, and sure enough, the first base side little gate to the dugout and the field is wide open.
Oh,
and just had a moment, and but not a soul was around. It was just me and my dad, and that's something that I will treasure. And I just, listen, I always know that he's with me. His spirit lives on, his legacy lives on, but you just felt that connection even more in that particular moment and leading to the game that night. He was with me right there next to me, and I'm so proud to share his last name and carry on that legacy.
Meant to be, man.
That's
Meant
awesome.
to be. That's
So
that's
awesome.
spectacular. He's Ted Emrich. He's our number one favorite play-by-play guy until Craig Way comes on the air, and then he's our second favorite play-by-play guy. It's whoever I'm talking to is my favorite. Ted, appreciate you, my man. It's great talking to you. All the best. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah. Great talking with you guys. Take care.
Take care. There he goes. Ted Emrich, the great Ted Emrich.
That's why I
Joining
put on the lower third, play-by-play extraordinaire,
Play-by-play
man.
extraordinaire.
Just extraordinaire
Great dude.
human.
Great dude. Great dude. One of our favorites, Ted Emrich. Yeah, and of course the son of the guy. I mean, I'm telling you, and I know, like, there was we had a brief eulogy for Raj whenever he passed away, back in April 2019, and we kind of all joked about how, like, all of us just wanted to be Ted's agent, because Ted is if you couldn't hear, like, if that's the first time you were hearing his voice, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a play-by-play guy. Like, he's
so
a
calm.
superstar. And it's like, it's unbelievable.
You got to go back and listen to that call that he did for Westwood Sport. I mean,
Westwood One is great.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I got chills the whole time we were listening to it. It was just phenomenal.
Teddy's a superstar. It's great talking to him, as always.